All right. Irene
What do we have?
Hendricks.
Who? Oh, I'm sorry.
Irene Hendricks is our lucky profile.
Yay.
Irene Hendricks, Palatine Township High School District 211.
Oh.
She is 55 years old. She has an annual pension of 155,000. Excuse me, $115,000. $115,000. Round numbers. She paid in 168,000 through the course of her working career.
Okay.
That's 4.4% of her life of her expected lifetime payout. So 168 in, she's making 115 right now. She's already been paid out $1.1 million.
Oh my gosh.
She's 55.
She's in your wheelhouse, Dan.
No.
Mm-hmm.
The lifetime payout, TRS here, lifetime payout, $3.8 million. 168 in, 3.8 million out, guaranteed. She's 55, getting 115 grand annually, or which will continue to bump with the 3% compounded cola. 1.5 million out so far at the age of 1.1 million out so far, excuse me, at the age of 55.
That's ridiculous.
Interesting. And that's my response when people say, you don't want to bail out Illinois, you don't want money from the federal government that's being demanded of Democrats, then you don't want to pay teachers and firefighters and police officers. Wrong. No, I do. Recognize we need teachers and firefighters and police. I think we all do. It's just the blank check aspect of it. It's the what we can and cannot finance aspect of it. It's, to borrow a favorite word of the left, the fairness aspect of it. Comparing people who, say, are around median household income in the state, which is 55 grand, 56 grand, to pensioners in the six figures with seven-figure guaranteed payouts at a multiple of a 4% investment. That doesn't obviously defined benefit plans don't exist in the private sector, but even to the extent they would, something this generous, come on. And it also goes because the pension data that we routinely pour over, what underlies it? What underlies it is the number of governmental units we have, the most in the country, the number of or the salary for the number of public employees at all levels of government. Obviously, that drives your pension payout. So you have to look at salaries too and say, is that fair? Is that financeable? Is that a fair price to pay for the value that taxpayers receive when we talk about public sector salaries? Are they in line? And to help us do that, we're pleased to be joined by Adam Andrzejewski. He is the CEO and founder of OpenTheBooks.com and a senior contributor to Forbes. His most recent piece out this week, Why Illinois is in Trouble, 109,881 public employees with $100,000 paychecks, which totals out to about $14 billion annually. That's real money. Adam, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be on the program, Dan and Amy. Thank you very much for your interest in our work.
So,
I think what we
yeah,
identified is the Illinois $100,000 Club. There is a new minimum wage for an Illinois public employee, and it's $100 grand a year. Incredibly, 110,000 public employees and retirees exceed that threshold.
And do you have any perspective, some context about what percentage of overall public sector employees that represents?
So there are about, let's just go through this in real time. There's about 750,000 public employees that are active. And there's about, if my memory serves, about 400,000 retirees. So that's a little over 1.1 million public sector paychecks, whether they're currently working or retired in Illinois.
Well, and that speaks to why people understand why is this intractable? Why doesn't anybody have the courage to address this issue when everybody seems to agree that it's not financeable? You just gave us the answer. 1.1 million, 750,000 active, 400,000 pension years. There's your voting block, which when you start to include their family members, tips the scale every time.
Well, and that doesn't include the federal workers based in Illinois. So you got to add probably a couple 100,000 public sector paychecks on top of that. So you go through the local, state, and then you add in the federal, and all of a sudden we start to look like a third world South American country.
Well, and importantly, too, just additional context, Illinois, I believe, is still the only, maybe Ohio, too, but it's one of the few states in the Midwest that has more government employees than manufacturing employees. And when you say your manufacturing is your base, and that's, one of your key industries, agribusiness and manufacturing associated with that, but also manufacturing generally, and you have more public sector employees than you do manufacturer employees, that speaks to the situation being out of whack.
Well, Dan, I think that the number one manufactured product in Illinois is actually corruption. So I think this is a manufacturing problem. We're manufacturing and minting public sector employees and conferring benefits that were never going to be paid back. Look, that Moody's said that Illinois has a $250 billion unfunded pension liability. And we point out in this piece at Forbes that there's only 13 million people in the state. What that means is every man, woman, and child in the state of Illinois owes $19,000 just on unfunded pension liabilities. An average household income is $64,000. If you're a family of four at $19,000 apiece, you owe $76,000 of Illinois unfunded pension liability. Dan, Amy, that exceeds your household income. We've crossed the Rubicon. There's no coming back. Don't bail out Illinois. This thing is unsustainable.
Well, is there ever going to come a point in time when the checks are going to bounce, that the money's just not going to be there?
Well, sure. I mean, TRS, a couple of years ago now, the spokesman came out, and Dick Ingram, the executive director over at the teachers' retirement system, he said that, yes, the system could run out of money. So, yeah, that's a real possibility. I really liked at the start of the program when you went through the one kind of rank and file pensioner in the teachers' retirement system. Here's an example that doesn't get enough play. As far as we can tell, he's the educator that takes more in pay and pension than anybody else in the state of Illinois right now. This guy is a finance administrator. He's retired from the Schaumburg District 54. He's retired on a $295,000 a year pension, soon to exceed $300,000 a year. He was hired back by Hinsdale, the local grade school district, elementary school district here in Hinsdale, District 181. He's making an additional $200,000 a year salary. The reason that this guy, Mushan Datta, can take a pension and a salary is because his pension comes through the teacher's retirement system, and he's been hired back under the Illinois Municipal Retirement System for his new salary. So he's double dipping the system for nearly $500,000 a year, and that's why Illinois is broke.
I want to just go through some of these units of government. As you break down in your piece in Forbes, comparing public schools, the city of Chicago, give us break it down a little bit from the statewide numbers to some of the regional numbers.
So we found tree trimmers in Chicago making up to $107,000 a year. You've got 8 nurses at state corrections making over $200,000, all the way up to $277,000 a year. You've got a power couple at the downstate Lewis and Clark College that probably nobody's ever heard of. Together they make $733,000 a year, with the junior college president, the husband, making nearly $500,000, and the wife making $233,000. You've got over here at the University of Illinois in Chicago, you've got doctors making up to $2 million, and when they retire, you're on the hook for their pension. Dan, you've got 111 small-town managers who out-earned every governor of the 50 states. That threshold salary was $202,000 a year.
What about our lawmakers, someone like Mayor Daley, who was also, a state lawmaker before that, and they're double dipping as well?
Yeah, so Mayor Daley double dipped the pensions. He spent 8 years in the state Senate. He gets a legislative pension of nearly $150,000 a year. Obviously, he spent 22 years as the mayor of Chicago. His pension there is $84,000. You add it up, and Daley's got 2 pensions for $232,000 a year.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that happens too. Pat Quinn is the same camp. He put about $200,000 in. He's expected to get about $3 million out. because of, all the various offices he's had all of the various years through his, itinerant meandering of the Illinois political system. Here's the thing. It's not only what you put in, what you get out. And it's not only the fact, or in addition to that, it's the fact that by year 4 or 5, most of these pensioners are making more than they made while working, even as you're reviewing how much they're making working.
And let's use a Republican example on this. We've got former Illinois Governor Jim Edgar. He's kind of triple dipped the system. So he retires as governor, and he spent time in the General Assembly, of course. And today he's got a $176,000 a year pension from the General Assembly and for being governor. He went to work at the University of Illinois. He spent 20 years there. It's a different pension system, so he draws another pension there from the U of I at $85,000 a year. He retired from the University of Illinois, and he was hired back this time part-time. So he can collect his pension. He gets another $63,000 a year. All told, this year, 3 sources, all taxpayer financed, guaranteed, and paid for $324,000 a year.
Is there any way we could stop this double dipping of pensions?
Well, it's interesting. Illinois has about 600 different pension systems, so it's very, very easy to double, or even some guys are triple dipping the system. Wisconsin, by comparison, has 3 systems. It's much harder to double dip the system when you only have 3 pension systems, where Illinois, we're designed for the double dipper, the triple dipper. We've got like 600 systems.
One more, just because this is so much fun going over these numbers. I like when we get down to the local level too here, and let's stay in what used to be rock-ribbed Republican territory, DuPage County. Give us some DuPage County employees, whether at the county level or local park administrators, police officers in particular communities, what they're making.
Well, it's in DuPage County, the county has a history of hefty salaries and pensions. Up till this year, Dan Cronin, the chairman of DuPage County, he heads it up. His chief of staff was earning more than $202,000 a year. So just the chief of staff in DuPage County was pulling the big salary. He left DuPage County, so this year we've got the director of stormwater management. He made $253,000. You've got 5 more county administrators that made over $202,000 last year. Again, in DuPage County, out earning every governor of the 50 states. You've got a chief deputy police officer in DuPage County that last year, in his final year, he received $324,000. That was a $159,000 bump over the previous year. This spiked his lifetime pension. He now receives a pension of nearly $177,000 a year, as you say, right there in rock-ribbed Republican DuPage County.
And that's an important example too, because politicians who run around telling you that we've ended spiking for pension benefits in this state, actually, we haven't.
Well, it's alive and well in DuPage County and across the state. So last year, we did a co-investigation with Fox News, Dane Placco, Fox News Chicago 32. We took a look at the supersized salaries in the suburban school districts, and we found that the number one salary that year was Troy Paraday over in the tiny school district of Calumet. They had no high school, less than 1,000 kids. In 2018, he couldn't get the schools opened on time because they were full of mold. He was making $407,000 a year. He was going to retire, and he was asking the board for an additional payment of $1.75 million to cash in his vacation, sick days, and other perquisites. When we made a presentation in front of that board saying that he wasn't due that, they fired him. But today, we noticed now he's getting a pension of over $300,000 a year, even though they fired him before he could retire.
He is Adam Andrzejewski, CEO and founder of OpenTheBooks.com, senior contributor to Forbes. Check out his piece at Forbes, Why Illinois is in Trouble, 109,881 public employees with $100,000 plus paychecks costing taxpayers $14 billion. Adam, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be on the program.